All right, hi everyone. I am Dr. Vernita Glenn White, and welcome back to my brilliant chats with some brilliant, powerful women. And I want to introduce you to Dr. Phildra Swagger, who is an awesome, awesome person. And I will let her introduce herself because I am sure I would not be able to do it any justice. So, Dr. Phildra, tell me who you are and what results you produce in the world.
Oh, fantastic. It's nice to be here with your brilliant women conversation. Glad that you see me in that way because it's been quite a journey to get to the place that I am. I am by profession an educator. I retired from education in 2019 after leading I worked with a national nonprofit where we had programs in 10 different states. But that's not really who I am.
No, that's what you do. That's what you
Yeah,
did.
that's what I do. That's not really who I am. So I could tell you I have a PhD, Dr. V and Dr. Swag, So yeah, I have a PhD. I started my career as a classroom teacher. I was a building principal, a building administrator, founded a charter school, worked in communities, just really trying to open opportunities for young people to be able to live a more empowered life, I will say, right? But today, I will say that I am an entrepreneur, a coach, a wife, and a mom.
Wow, I love all of that. Yes, you come like full circle, especially as an educator and then transitioning into a coach. So I can't wait for us to talk more about that later. So I would like to know, how would you describe yourself personally and professionally, or do you see them as just one thing together? So like, how would you describe yourself in those areas or in those terms?
That highlights for me that I didn't answer the second part of your question, because how do I describe myself personally and professionally is exactly what I do with my clients to bring women together to live a whole life, a 360 experience in their lives. So as a coach, I work with women who are 100% focused on realizing their goals by using or recognizing, uncovering their real life's intention, right? The purpose for them, their compelling why, and not just goals. So when you ask, how do I define myself personally and professionally, I would have typically introduced myself as Dr. Swagger, vice president of our principal, or all of those things. But as I have matured through the journey of life, right, I have come to realize and celebrate that my life, my personal, should really be the driving force around my professional. So that I'm not living two lives where I am constantly changing hats to be effective in one area of my life as opposed to another area of my life. So when I look at personal and professional, it's about the balance. It's about the alignment. It's about having a 360 perspective on what it is that motivates you and what God intended for you in your life's purpose. So I hope that responds.
It did. No, I love that, because when you said how you would normally introduce yourself, we do that. Like, I am Dr. Such and Such, and this is what I did. We never introduce ourselves like this is the person I am. So when you say your personal, you want that to be your driving force of who you are. I think that's powerful, because we are more than just our degrees and our titles, but that's how we show up in the world. So I love that perspective of what you said.
It's those external things that we believe are important that make us who we are when we're attempting to fit, when we're attempting to wear the mask and the scripts that we have been written on our lives from small child up. Most of what we know and discover about ourselves, we know at age 7. Right. It's funny. I as a mom, I one thing that really bothers me when I hear parents and as an educator as well, you say, "Oh, that's a bad little boy." well, he's 6. Don't tell him, don't teach that to him, don't
Exactly.
ingrain that, because there's power in the tongue, right? And if you tell a child that they're bad, the likelihood is they're going to be bad. If you
Yep.
tell them that they're smart and brilliant, guess what? They're going to attempt to do smart and brilliant things, because people live up to the expectation. So if I introduce myself anything other than Phildra, then I am attempting to live toward those external labels that I once deemed important.
Oh, I got chills when you said that. And I remember, like, for a long time, I didn't acknowledge myself as doctor. And we had a discussion about that years ago. It's like I just didn't want to be doctor, or I felt like, the whole imposter syndrome and all of that. So then I
Mhm.
had to be comfortable with, this is what I've earned, but at the same time, that is not my identity. So I'm still Vernita. However, in certain situations, you're going to respect me as doctor, but but like you said, it's like at the end of the day, beginning, middle, and end, I am Vernita, you are Phildra. And I
Right.
like that you said that. Is, all of that, that still matters. We're not going to dismiss that, but who are
Exactly.
we at our core, and what are we telling ourselves, so we don't have to live up to those expectations. So
Exactly.
I
And
wrote that
it's
down.
funny that I'm going to put a handle on that as well, because I said I wouldn't just be Dr. Swagger, because like that's the earned degree. I coach, I consult, I work with women,
Mm-hmm.
and my clients seek me out. I work with what I call boss chicks. We can talk about that later, but
Yes.
my clients are what I call boss chicks, right? And so they seek me out for my credentials, right? They seek me out to understand my process, and they have, for the most part, researched what my journey and contributions have been. And so I'm not Dr. Swagger, but I'm now Dr. Phildra. So
Oh,
Dr. Phildra has a relationship,
okay.
and so that allows me to say, yes, I have a journey. Yes, I have credentials, and it gives my clients the credibility that they seek when they come to me for help. But at the same time, working with women, sometimes they need to go, girlfriend, is this really happening? I work with, when I say boss chicks, some of my clients are CEOs. And when you
Mhm.
get to certain levels, there are not a lot of people that look like you, and there are not a lot of people to turn to the left or right and say, did you hear that? Or, you know what? That makes me feel a certain way, because you're in the boardroom and you don't even know if it's okay to feel in the boardroom. So if you can walk to the office and call Dr. Phildra and say, let me tell you what do you think about this? Or help me strategize. Did I hear what I thought I heard?
Mhm.
So Dr. Phildra has the credibility and the experience to help you decode what just happened, help you put your lip gloss back on, straighten out your lashes, sister, and go back in there and be brilliant.
But I love that. So because you said that, we're gonna make this transition, because I want to keep. I don't want to. I want to keep it in this lane because that's where we were going. But I want to talk about it now. These women that you work with, brilliant, top of the game, high achieving women. What do you think? What was their perspective about personal growth and personal development prior to either seeking you out, or what got them to seek you out? Like, that's what I really want us to talk about, because especially women that look like us, or even the high achieving women,
Mhm.
we'll get professional help, like to go advance our careers and all of that. But that personal side, you hear so many women talk about, like, my personal life is a mess. So I want to just hear your perspective, or the journey, or what have some of these women said to you to make them say, you know what, I need some additional support.
So, boss chicks are brave, optimistic, savvy, successful, creative, highly intelligent, career-minded sisters. So I
All
wanted to
right,
put
boss
that in the
chick.
atmosphere, right? So they have all of this going on. But what I have found is that they are brave enough, intelligent enough, creative enough to run massive organizations,
Mhm.
but they have not embraced asking for help in a way that allows them to be publicly vulnerable
Mm.
and know that it's okay to do that, right? So, we don't, some women get to cry in the boardroom and get rescued.
Yes.
Some women get to, write a 2-page paper and it's a dissertation. Not all women get that opportunity, right? And so
Right.
the women that seek me out are women who have reached a plateau in their careers, and they realize that the missing piece is that it's not bringing me the joy that I had anticipated I would have at this level, right? It's not bringing the balance, and sometimes not even the authority, because you can have the responsibility for a lot of things. You can have the responsibility for a project or a team, and then you realize that the authority does not sit with you. So then when
Wow.
you go in the boardroom and the conversations continue to happen around you,
Mm-hmm.
how do you come to grips with that? How do you address that it's my responsibility? I leave this room and I lead my team, but when I come in this boardroom, I get pushed back again, right? And so the women that I work with are saying, as big of a presence as I have, help me find my voice, help me find my joy. Where is the next level for me? And where did I depart from it? Right. And that's a journey that I can even attest to because it happens.
Right.
It's so funny. I know you have some questions to get to, but
No, this is
I,
great.
I'll share this. Like I said, I have a PhD and an MBA, and the MBA is my second master's degree. I can promise you nobody needs that many degrees, okay? It's
No.
it's not necessary. Now, I'm a lifelong learner, so don't get me wrong. I'm not knocking education. I love right now.
Right.
I'm in another certification program, but that's to be a yoga instructor. Can you believe that? Did I tell you that?
No. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness, that is
yes.
awesome. You better yoga.
I have just totally fell in love with yoga. So, but anyway, I digress. The journey toward a PhD, the journey toward the MBA, again, were those things that I grew up in North Carolina with a single mom, grandparents. And so I'm not the first generation to go to college, but I'm the first generation to actually advance with college the way that I have. And so it was important for me to make sure that I could create a legacy that my children could stand on, that my ancestors would be proud of,
Right.
that my children would be my ancestors' promise. It would be their hope. I feel like my children are the manifestation of what my ancestors wanted for me, right? My children have traveled, they do well in school, all of the above. And that was the life that I wanted to live. And so it was very important for me to get my education through degrees. It was important for me to have the right job. I've always said I didn't work for a job title, but I wanted my work to speak for me. I wanted it to be significant. And then I realized as I was going through my career, I've started charter schools for individuals, for agencies. I've written multi-million-dollar grants, and I've done these things around education. And what I realized is that I was in the business of education. I left the classroom in early 2000s. And ever since then, as an administrator, I've been in the business of education. But when I got to a certain level and it was work, it wasn't a happy place for me anymore. And all I've ever wanted to do was teach. All I ever wanted to do was make sure that little brown babies had an opportunity to get to college, to improve their neighborhoods, do whatever they needed to do. And when I stopped and I wasn't enjoying it, I realized that's because from the womb, I was a teacher, but I was also an entrepreneur. But I tried to put my entrepreneurial spirit in a box that I understood, that I thought the world understood. So I'll build schools. I'll be an educator. I'll write grants. Give me this vehicle. Oh, what does the, I'm going to say, what does the government have to fund this, right? It's not food stamps, but in a way it really was, because I stayed long enough to get these things funded, because that was the avenue that I understood, that I knew how to reach, as opposed to saying, I can go create those dollars. Money is everywhere.
There is.
Money is how you attract money and how you put it together. So I say that to say that as a boss chick myself, I had to go through a journey to understand, well, what was my real intention? Was it really to start charter schools? Was it really to write grants? What was it? And the truth of the matter, it was to be able to be creative, highly intelligent, problem solving, savvy, optimistic, everything a boss chick is, for myself and for my community, so that I could build avenues where little brown babies could walk their path and walk it with confidence.
Wow, I love that. That's an amazing journey, and I love what you talked about, putting your entrepreneurial spirit in a box. And it's like getting back to your real intentions of what were you really supposed to be doing. Is one thing, like, yes, we did the career and everything, but it was time to give up that seat. We were supposed to do that for a reason, but a lot of times we hold on to that seat because we're like, well, like you said, the avenue I understood, we don't venture off to the boulevard because we want to stay on the avenue. So I love what you said about that. And you didn't say this directly, but it's not going to go away, especially the more that you get in tune with yourself. And that's why you kept advancing the way you kept advancing, because you were still searching
Exactly.
for something. And it was like, will you stop searching and turn within?
Hence yoga.
Okay. So
yeah, let's be still.
So you talked about this process of having all of these degrees. I myself have 5, which is ridiculous. And I used to wear that like it was a badge of honor. And like you, I don't regret any of them, because I actually used them all. I'm one of the few. However, there's a lot of people that go through this process, and you may know or you may not know, but I think you know that I wrote this book, Embracing Grit for Greatness, Becoming Professionally Powerful Through Personal Empowerment. And that's where I do talk about my first understanding of what it meant to have grit in my professional life, and then how I did not have that grit in my personal life. So you obviously have grit. You wouldn't have done all of those things you listed, no PhD, no MBA, no multi-million-dollar grant, no charter schools, because that takes grit. What I want to know is, how were you able, even if you didn't know the definition of grit, but how were you able to take that process of what you were doing in your professional life to grow your personal life in the way that you wanted it to go? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So, I think one of the things is you have to come to a bump in the road. And coming to a bump in the road, I used to say, oh, I have a 5-year shelf life. I have a 5-year shelf life, and then I have to change jobs, or then I have to get a new challenge or whatever. But what it was is that I was really out of alignment, right? I was out of alignment, and I was still trying to find that thing that satisfied me. As you say, I was searching, right? And so in this last venture, and I'll be transparent, we had a budget cut. And in the budget cut, it was, well, you can do this or you can do this. And I was like, well, you know what? I've done this long enough, and I'm not quite that happy. I'm going to take what's behind door number 2.
Right.
I'm going to take what's behind door number 2 and go to a new journey. And so that departure for me was like a wake-up call. It was like, look in the mirror and really decide who you are, and who you are from the beginning, and who you want to be. There's this book called The 4 Agreements. And the 4 Agreements talks about, again, letting go of scripts and being honest with yourself about who you are and what you've been told. In coaching, you might hear it as limiting beliefs, right? So let go of those limiting beliefs. And I talked about being in a lane. Being in that lane is because it's what our parents knew to guide us to, right? And you stayed in that lane because it was safe, it was impressive. I'm Dr. Swagger, right? But when is it the lane, the boulevard, as you say, that you've chosen for the fullness of your life? In one of my programs, in my personal development program, I call it Yes and Amen. And Yes and Amen is based on 2 Corinthians. All the promises of God are answered in yes and amen. And from there, what I teach on the mantra that you have clarity that brings alignment, that results in discipline, that gives you full health. And health is mental health, financial health, personal health, spiritual health, the whole thing. Then that is what leads to abundance, right? When you get clarity and you get an alignment, and then you're disciplined about what's next, about what do you want, then that's when abundance comes. And I define abundance in a 360 perspective, again, looking at all the areas of your life, because you can't, your life, I believe, does not have a singular or specific angle, calling, fulfillment. It's a holistic life, right? And a holistic life means that I can pour into people around me, that I can pour into people around me. I can be vulnerable and strong in the same sense. And I can give and not fear that it will cause me lack. I can celebrate you without taking any of shine off of me. And if I turn the light off on me, I can still put shine on you and be okay. Exactly. So I don't even know what the question was anymore, but
no, you're doing good. Keep going. I got it.
But that's just the thing. It's that whole journey of getting to where you can live in the purpose that God created you for, and that with the intention of seeking that. I think sometimes people get misguided on the difference between intentions and goals, right? So my goal was to get a PhD. My goal was to have a year's salary saved, but my intention was to create a life that would bring me peace, create a life that would change the trajectory of my family's history so that my kids could excel at a different level, right? So that doesn't look just like a number in the bank. That looks like a set of core values. That looks like discipline. That looks like setting priorities as to what I will and will not allow in my life, right? And that's what I work with my boss chicks on. What are your core values that inform your intentions, and how disciplined are you to bringing that into reality? How do you manifest who you are so that your personal life, your professional life, your spiritual life, I help women advance their careers by creating a happy home, right? You'd be amazed, or maybe not, the number of women that are sitting in happy seats, high power seats, and they get home and they're miserable. Because guess what? He jealous, or he is not a contributor. And when you walk in the door, you suddenly feel small. You don't want to leave your marriage, but how do you work through that so that you can have an authentic relationship that gives you the energy that you need to do to go back out and face the world every day?
I love it. So you thought you were off, but you answered the question when I did ask how we often have this grit. We know how to do all of the things in grit. So my definition of grit was being courageous, being conscientious, having endurance, resiliency, and choosing excellence over perfection. And we've done that during the degree process or credentials or whatever. but you said it so well about that same process, and you can share your definition of grit as well. But that same process you took to help women to do that same thing you did over there and apply that to your personal life so you can have this abundant life. And you laid out all of the steps and the ways for them to do that, because just like getting a degree is not an easy journey, well, neither is being intentional about your life, having your
That's
life
right.
a certain way. Both requires a process, and then like you said, it depends on your intention and who are you becoming along the way, because you can do the same thing in your personal life. Some people have some great personal life, they have a great personal life and fun and abundance, but then professional life, they're like, I have no direction. So it goes both ways, but for some reason, as high achieving brilliant women, we straight on the professional side. Got it on lock. And then women that
Right.
look like us, I think we're the most highly educated group in the world.
Right.
We got that. But then it's like, why do we have to have either or? So you've wrapped that up and said it very, I love the way you said it. I think you said happy seats. I don't know if that was intentional, but I can still be in my C-suite and still be happy at home,
That's right.
so I love all. So I told you I was with you. I told you. But before we jumped on, you gave me your definition of grit, and I love that. So can you share that as well?
Yeah. So, I love the fact that you are writing and sharing with the world and the women that the way that you are. But um, it's just refreshing and enlightening to see a young sister be so powerful with her words. And so congratulations to you on that, first of
Thank
all.
you. Thank you.
But I think grit, what it means to me is being 100% focused on realizing your goals. And that's different than hustle and grind, right? That 100% of realizing your goals is using the sum total of who you are to manifest the vision in your life, right? It's the power of prayer, it's leveraging relationships, it's building on your resources, it is being intentional in a 360 way. And I think that's where you really showcase that grit is having a clear focus and then putting 100% of your energy behind manifesting that in a positive way.
I love it. Awesome. Now you talked about this, but I just want to say it so it'll be in here. So I'm doing a movement. My movement is embracing brilliance. And you've already shared how you do that with your boss chicks, but I just want to just be clear, like what does when you hear something like embracing brilliance, what does that mean to you? And then you can also add like how you've seen this show up in the women that you've worked with.
Embracing brilliance. Okay, so there's another concept. Brene Brown is a
Oh, I
great
love her.
researcher,
I
and
know,
she
right?
talks about that vulnerability, and I think that's what embracing brilliance is, and especially for Black women of color, we have for so long been told that we have to be strong. I said earlier that we don't get to cry in the boardroom. We have to. We don't really wear pantyhose anymore, but if you had a ruin in your pantyhose, that way it's just like, I'm flawed, right?
Yep.
But
yes, I remember those. Yes.
you remember those, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I think embracing your brilliance is allowing yourself to be vulnerable, allowing yourself to live, to use Dr. Brown's word, wholeheartedly, to allow yourself not to take life so personally, but to make life personal. Ooh. Right? So what you say and do cannot really offend me because I'm good. I'm good. I'm whole, right? And so I think when we embrace brilliance, it's giving ourselves permission to walk in however and whoever we are, right? For me, that means aligning with God's purpose for my life. And I'm not an evangelist. I just believe that God, well, I know the word says that when he formed me in my mother's womb, he had a plan and a purpose for me. Exactly. And he has a plan and a purpose for me, one of hope and prosperity, not of harm, right? So that means that no matter what,
No matter what.
No matter what, right? I can continue. So I think embracing the brilliance is getting to that place where you can say, I'm Phildra, and be cool with it. And who wants to know Phildra will know Phildra. Who I don't serve, So we won't always be there. Years ago, my mentor and I were working on a curriculum for a private church-based school. And we used to do professional development. And way back then, and I say way back then because I moved to Florida in 95. So it must have been like 97, 98, right? And I discovered this little quote in Iana Van Science book. And it was, people come into your life for a season, a reason, and a lifetime. Remember that?
Yep.
And the challenge that we have is knowing what reason they're there, when the season is over, or if you should keep them, right? And that's the same thing with experiences. Wow. So sometimes you will stay too long. You can stay in a relationship too long. You can stay in a job too long. You can stay on the board too long. You can be important too long. You can do all those things because you didn't understand the reason, which is the lesson they came to bring you. And so if you stay too long and stay past your season, guess what? The lesson repeats, or you end up missing the lesson because you're looking for something else. And so I think brilliance is getting to a place where you can say, how does this serve me? And accept that.
I'm writing these nuggets, you all, because this is powerful for me as well. So I am learning. I love listening to other brilliant, powerful women. So thank you for that. And I was like, this is the movement I'm having. So I love to hear different perspectives. And that is really true. I get it now. And I'm reading Brené Brown book. I think it's Dare to Lead. She got so many. I think I have the Dare to Lead one.
Dare to Lead, Leading Greatly.
She got a whole bunch of Rising, Wilderness, all of that. And it is about that vulnerability, but I didn't equate embracing brilliance to vulnerability. And that's true. It's like you have to show up and accept all that's coming to you, all of who you are, and still want to keep moving, because it's, the higher you go up, or the more accolades you have, or how people still perceive you, that's a scary place to be. But in order for you to continue moving forward, regardless of what they see or say, you have to be vulnerable. So that is powerful. So thank you for that.
Courage is in vulnerability. There's courage and vulnerability, because the courage and vulnerability is, I have decided to take the mask off. This is who I am. Love it or leave it. It's like, that's the name of the TV show. Love it or list it is the house show.
Yes, the house show.
And that's another good analogy. I hadn't really thought about that, but on that show, Love It or List It is, can you make this house what I need it to be, or is it time to move on? That's the whole principle behind that show.
That is so true. It's like we
just
do that in our lives. That's a good one. That is a good one.
Yeah.
I love it. The one thing you did say, and I know we have to keep it moving, but I just love this. When you're talking about the reason, season, and lifetime, I learned this from a mindset coach when I was struggling about what am I supposed to do next. And it was like, you're holding on so much to a title or a position that you're not giving up the seat. Like, this was your seat, but now it's time for you to get up. And how I had to finally have it click. So it's crazy with all these degrees and everything I have. I'm like, am I slow? I still don't get it. So she had to say, you are taking up someone else's space. Get up. And I was like, oh, well,
that's powerful.
Right? Because I was like, no, this is who I am. I worked hard to be here in this position. I'm whining and crying, holding on. Like you said, forget the season. I was like, no, I'll tell you.
What do you mean?
Right. And I'm telling you, she had to break it down like that. It was like, and I know this phrase, what you said, I know all of that. But when she said, you are taking up someone else's seat, get
Isn't that
up.
powerful?
And it's
That's
like, you
powerful.
really don't, she was like, you really don't want to be here anyway. Cause again, that's the ego thing. You just,
Mhm.
you don't want to be here. Get out of the seat. And I was like, wow. So when you were saying that, especially about we be important too long, like it's not for you to be there anymore.
Exactly.
I just wanted to put that out there. So if anybody was struggling and you know that phrase, just remember you, it's not time for you to be important anymore in this area and give up the seat. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love that. Okay, so after all of that, what you've done, what you experienced your life, and then you had the blessing to work with other women. And some people, and me, I didn't realize how powerful that was. Even as an educator, yes, I've imparted in people's lives, whatever, but it's something different when you come on to the area of like coaching and seeing women, almost like your peers. I would kind of say your peer group, and you're helping them through things, not like you're telling them what to do. It's not like a student, but it's a different kind of relationship. So with all of that you've seen, what advice would you give to your younger self? And it doesn't have to go all the way back to childhood. It could be last month, last year, but whatever phrase
Right.
of your youngest self, of your younger self.
What I would tell my younger self is to trust myself.
Mm.
Right? Because again, excuse me one second. I apologize. Again, we have so many scripts that we have been that have been assigned to us.
Mhm.
We have you know, as a little brown girl, was I too dark? Was I too thick? You know, all of those things. And you end up carrying that baggage where when I looked in the mirror, I was like, well, I don't have a third eye. Why can't I be cute? You know? Or
Right.
if somebody says you are you're cute to be dark skinned.
Mm.
So does that mean that if I was light skinned, I'd be ugly? I mean, what are you saying? You
Right.
know, and so I would trust my gut and my instinct a lot earlier because that would have kept me in my intentions.
Mm.
I knew
Wow.
early on that I was an entrepreneur. And what's so funny is when I talk to friends and even colleagues now, and I say, oh, I'm an entrepreneur, they were like, you always were.
Right. About time.
Yeah, it's about time. And why is it that I didn't know that or embrace that?
Mhm. But like you said, it was those rules and things that, you know, we were expected to follow, whether consciously or subconsciously, directly or indirectly. We were groomed to be a certain way, and at some point, we just kept going on with the rules. And I always like to
Exactly.
say, those of us who are traditionally educated, trained. I hope I'm saying that right. We were conditioned, we're rule followers. You know, you go take this class, you get this grade, you move on, and everything is set and prescribed. So anything that deviates from that, we're like, whoa, wait a minute. And like you said, we
Exactly.
forget trusting ourselves, because after you don't get to a PhD level and not have some form of conditioning. As much as we like to say we're the researcher, we've done this, but we've been conditioned a certain way.
That's
You
right.
know, and when you get to that level, it's like you do, and we can talk about that another time, but you go through that process and you stop trusting yourself because you're told not to trust yourself. So,
Right.
and that's just in a professional space, and I know that leaked over to the personal side. So that is great advice.
A
So
PhD is a rites of passage. I mean, you know, we both are members of sororities, and I can promise you, I was not hazed in my sorority. I was hazed like hell
in
at
that
the
PhD,
university.
it sure was. I earned
So,
every letter that went across that chest. That PhD. Earned every single. I look. We gotta have a conversation about that. People don't understand, and it took me years when people were like, "Oh, I think I should go get my PhD." I was like, "No, you don't. No, you don't. You better not." They were like, "But
yeah,
you know, it's a great." I was like, "Man, listen."
yeah. The question is, what's your end game?
And that's what I'm like. Do you just want to be called doctor? Because there are
Yeah,
other ways to do things.
exactly. You can serve from all different
You,
levels. It
so
may not be that one.
I don't regret it. I think it's great. Like I love it and embrace it, but how the ever it was a process nonetheless. Hazing.
Nonetheless.
And I will say hazing along with you along that. Whew, flashbacks. I'm better now. I'm better now. My
Right?
anniversary of graduating just came up in August. I remember August 15th. I was out. So, but anyway.
Yeah.
So I do. So we know about your younger self, but I do want to see like from the a place of from the future. So where do you see yourself either 10 or 20 years from now?
Oh, it's so funny that you asked that. So I am self-correcting, if I can be honest with you. So I intend to sell the real estate that we have, our home,
Okay.
as well as another property, and build what I call my Serenity home.
Oh,
And the
that's
Serenity home has less square footage, but more acreage because I need a pool. I married a Floridian who does not swim.
I know
So
about that. Same here. I am with you. I am with
I mean,
him.
he does not swim, so we never had a pool, and I always wanted a pool. I knew that. Again,
Mhm.
go with your intentions, right? So I always wanted a pool. So now I have to get a whole new house after I've decided that I am an entrepreneur for myself, which means that I have to, generate a business at a certain level, right?
Yep.
Because not only do I have a lavish pool, I also have a she shed that is not just a
Nice.
shed, but it is my global corporate headquarters
Ooh,
on my own property.
come on now.
Right?
Come on now.
And so, where do I see myself in 10 or 20 years? I am loving my estate.
Ooh, it's
My estate
yes.
has the home of my dreams, the lavish pool of my morning swims. It has a beautiful garden of not necessarily vegetables because I'm not working in that garden, but but nice wind chimes and flowers. Just it's a nice landscape, and it has a wonderful corporate headquarters where my executive clients can come and do private retreats, where my team can come and build and plan and strategize, or where I can just go and sit and be with Dr. Phildra.
Yes.
That's
Wow.
where I see me in 10 years.
Well, with all of that detail, I don't think it's gonna take 10 years to tell you the truth, because like the more we're into it, like you talked about this beat having that clarity and that intention doesn't take that long because it's already there. I know we're not gonna get too deep for people who don't understand the personal growth journey, but once you get on that, especially the transformational journey, you'll understand more of it doesn't really take that long to get what you want. It's just
Mhm.
the more you're in the quicker you get aligned to it, the faster it can come. So I don't think it's going to take you 10 years, but I love that. I'm like you. I want something similar, especially with the panorama that we're in. I don't really need to go places.
No,
I need all this just around me so I can just take a
right.
few little steps. So I love it. I
Yeah.
love that. All
Well,
right. Oh, go ahead.
no, I was going to say you're right. The pandemic, it's been a terrible experience. It's been a terrible experience. And when I think about it, we are well into past 2 years of this, because for me, it marked spring break of 2019 marked the kids coming out of school, and they anticipated that spring break would be extended and they would go back. They didn't go back for the school year. And then last school year, the 1920 school year, was a wash.
Yep.
So, they're really just trying to get back to a place where it's normal, if we can define normal again,
Right.
right? But what I will say is that it also shrunk the world.
Mm,
It shrunk the world that we could see that the enemy, a germ, could hurt everybody and impact everybody. Some people are resisting it, but the truth is that a germ, an enemy, is amongst everybody.
everybody.
And it made us look at what people on the other side of the world were experiencing in their health, in their economics. It made us think about the people next door, and it made us take a real look at the people that's in the four walls with us. So
Exactly.
families got closer, at least mine did, and I think most people did, because it's like, okay, well, let's play Monopoly tonight. Are we just going to sit here again? Let's do something that brings us, together. And so, it's been ebbs and flows since it's been 2 years. But so it brought families together. It made clients reach in a different way. Just this morning, I was working with a client out of California. I'm in Florida.
Wow. Yeah.
You know, and so it's like, well, hey, it's not necessary to be physically present. Look at us. We're doing this. It's going to be on your channel, impacting millions of people around the world. And guess what? You're doing it from the comfort of your she shed, of your corporate headquarters.
Yes. I love it. Absolutely. You better speak that over here.
I'm speaking it.
Oh my goodness. I love it. Well, I thank you so much. You've already talked a little bit about boss chicks, but if you want to do anything more formal, I'll still have your information like at the end and in the description. But if you want to talk more about what you do for your company, and if you want to share anything about yoga or how people can reach out to you, what type of people you work with, please let us know that now.
It's funny that you put yoga in there. So I am doing yoga because I have come to the place, you use the word transformation. And one of the first women's programs that I offered was a retreat that I called the Year of Your Transformation. And the whole experience was about helping women become more mindful, right? More intentional, which is what I do now. But as I became more intentional, more mindful, and worked on my transformation, yoga, meditation, and prayer really helped me get clear. And I'll share a mantra with you that if you visit my website, phildraswagger.com or combinedexpertise.com. The company is Combined Expertise, but you can find me at phildraswagger.com. And I have a leadership program and a personal development program. The leadership program is Boss Chicks, and the personal development program is Yes and Amen.
Okay. I love that. 2 tracks. I love that.
It's 2 tracks, right? Because most people will think they need to be on either one of those tracks, right? And so we have services for you, and hopefully you'll end up at a retreat where we can help you develop all of that, bring that all together holistically.
Exactly.
But the mantra that we share in Yes and Amen that is spilling over to Boss Chicks is that I am intentionally seeking clarity, alignment, health. Excuse me, I'm intentionally seeking clarity, alignment, discipline, health, and abundance.
Wow.
When you have clarity of who you are and what your purpose is, your whole life will come into alignment. And then apply discipline in all areas that matter to you to really have a healthy lifestyle. And a healthy lifestyle is physical, financial, mental, spiritual, relational, all of the above. And that's where you find abundance. You find abundance in being healthy and whole, having peace and joy. And that can be, again, in your career. That can be it's in your heart, period. Right. It'll manifest in your career. It'll manifest in your bank account. It'll manifest in your relationships. But having clarity, alignment, discipline, health, and abundance manifest in your heart. And what's in your heart, you give to the world.
Oh, wow. I love that. And I am definitely going to make sure I have your information up there because, someone have asked like, well, if you're working with high achieving women, why would you have someone else on? And I was like, first of all, why are you asking me that question? But whatever.
That's called a limited mindset.
I was like, but then it's like you said, abundance. One, I can't serve everyone, exactly. And I don't want to. And, and then the other part is like if we're all, I believe in synergy, and that's part of being brilliant. If I let my brilliance shine, you let your brilliance shine. I truly believe if we all do that, then we can literally change the world and everyone move in that direction of synergy, because you're touching a group I may never ever get to see, but who knows what they may do on the other side. So it's like, are you serious? Was that a real question? So that's why I really want to highlight as much as possible, because other people get attention and you can slide in other people however you want to, but other people do that. So it's like, why can't we? And I remember someone was saying like, women like us who look like us are seeking before, they didn't know the term coaches or anything like that, because, I didn't know about that, but they're seeking that, but they want it from people who look like them or at least understand their experiences. And you have experiences that I don't have and vice versa. So look, if you're on here watching, if you don't rock with me, that's cool. But you can go be a boss chick and learn from this phenomenal sister and get your life transformed. And not only does she have life experience, she has credentials. And not saying that credentials mean anything, like you don't have to be credentialed, but for those of my people and our people who are like high achieving go-getters, that means something. And that's another language that we can speak that a lot of people cannot speak. So there's no excuse, people. Go get some help. Go get your
Yes.
life and get an abundant life, because yeah, it's too much out here for us not to get, and things are already in place for us. We just have to go get it. So I thank you for that. Again, I'll make sure I have all of your information up. And yeah, I appreciate you
Thank
giving me the
you.
best gift of your time.
You are more than welcome. It is always a pleasure to be with you, Dr. V.
Thanks, Dr. Phildra. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Oh, I forgot to say this. Don't leave yet. So remember, above all things, be well, be empowered, be bold, and be brilliant. So until next time, bye for real.